Okay, John, we're getting near the end of the project, of this particular project. How long has it been for you, for your involvement?
In 2013 we formed the Lumsden Heritage Trust with, one of the project aims was to try and recover the V-class locomotives from the Mararoa Junction here, or the Oreti River banks. And we had a consent for 5 years, and we got busy with other projects around the Lumsden Railway precinct, things from Waireo and what have you, and we've done those. And the landowner asked if we were intending to get these out, and I gave a commitment to him that we would try and do something within a year. So October a year ago we started looking at some funding opportunities, and went to the regional funding organisations in Southland here through the District Council, and we got quite a good response really. And so we looked at all the logistics of this. We had Tim Smith and Russell Bradley from Linton Contracting come down last January, and we looked at the site and had a look around and came to the conclusion that we could get these out. So that's the aim of today. With the regional funding, that gave us the ability to go to lotteries, and we picked up the other 2/3 of the project money through lotteries, who were more than happy to help us out.
So what was the total budget for this?
Total budget for this was 158,000. So we've had a lot of success in the funding, and now it's up to us to get them out to make the project successful. And it's a bit surreal really. We're at the nuts and bolts of it now, and I'm a little bit nervous that hopefully it'll all go right and we'll get these out. At this stage we're looking at the one locomotive there, which is V126. It's 135 years old, and that's its tender at the back there as well. And they got rolled in here in 1927. Kiwi Rail, or New Zealand Rail at the time, they had a surplus stock of old locomotives and cabs and boilers and what have you, and they didn't know what to do with them. Following post-World War I, there was a surplus of steel around, obviously, and there was also a report done by that was commissioned on the steam and where it was heading and the locomotives that they were going to get, and part of that report was to actually get rid of a lot of the stuff and start with a new series of locomotives. With the V-class, they followed the Little Rogers K-class, and in the late 1800s, about 1877, they realised that they just weren't meeting the freight demands for New Zealand.
Not big enough.
Not big enough.
Right.
And couldn't pull heavy loads. So they specifically designed these for New Zealand Rail. There was a bit of a quirk to it, that they were actually 5.5 tonne overweight, and therefore delivery was stalled on them for 6 years. So there's a little story in itself. So they cut them down in weight and got them here, and these ones that are in the river are 1885 locomotives. They started serving in late 1885 and 86, and they served for about 30 years, and then were decommissioned obviously when they put them in the river here.
And the thinking behind putting them in the river was something to do with a flood bank or something like that?
I think, yeah, there was eight spots throughout New Zealand that they did flood protection with their surplus steel, and this is one of them here. There's one further down south in Branksholme, and I'm not sure the others. I think there's one on the west coast and up through the North Island. There's spots there, and one in Canterbury.
Seems a strange thing to do with a huge bit of machinery like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think the point was though that through that report that was done, they knew they had to do something, and because the price of scrap was so low and no demand for it, that they thought that it was actually pretty cunning of whoever it was to come up with the idea of flood protection. But in another way, it's been very beneficial to us 93 years later, that we have the opportunity to get them out, whereas if they've been scrapped, there would be no opportunity at all.
Yeah.
That opportunity would have been lost, as has with a lot of other class of locomotives around New Zealand.
So the next phase, once you get it back to Lumsden, you treat them, protect them from the weather for a bit.
So the plan is, as they come out of here, and all going well, that we get them up on the bank and we give them a good clean off as best we can, and then they would be transported into Lumsden and put on display with an idea that there may be a little bit more cleaning to go, and then we've got a preservative to spray on it that will just keep them as they are for the meantime. And as I said earlier, there's the opportunity there for someone to restore them, whereas when they're in here, and this is the last opportunity to get them out of here due to the landowner's wishes.
Right.
I think being on display in town's a good option.
Is the restoration part of it something you'd be interested in, or is that another man's job?
No, I'm not. I love what I'm doing, and I love project managing. I really enjoy the interaction and networking that I get to do through being on the trust and projects like this. But I'm not a train enthusiast, you could say. And I think those sort of projects are lifetime projects, but the opportunity is there for someone in the future to do that if they wish. And I think that's because of their heritage significance that they were designed for New Zealand Rail, and that they were the story of them coming up here and being dumped, which is documented in an article. I think just having them on display is pretty cool.
Okay, so you must have had a lot of support from the local community and local engineers and what have you?
Fantastic support. We've had all the way along beside us have been outfits like Linton Contracting with Russell Bradley, Tim Smith with Smith Cranes, Southland Machine Hire, who are turning up here tomorrow with transporters, and they've helped us move gear around before and get things here on time. They brought the track sets down from Christchurch. Stalker, Castle Rock Contracting, the Stalker family up the road, they're offering a transporter tomorrow, and you can't go without saying the landowners, the Alistair Hamilton, his father Roger, and his wife in Winton. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here. So tremendous support. Venture Southland's they've changed their name now, but just fantastic. District Council, Environment Council were very good in the application process.
Resource consent.
Resource consent, all the consents involved. Just fantastic support. I couldn't be happier.